So, how many people like to hear good news? Anybody like to hear good news? How many people like to feel great joy? And how many people love to feel hopeful, uplifted, and inspired? Anybody? All right, we all do. You know, Christmas is about celebrating the good news of great joy for all the people. In Luke 2, verse 10 and 11, the angels say these words, "I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord." You know, and this good news was actually predicted 600 years before. And in the book of Isaiah, it says this, "For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end." You know, the people were struggling, and they were suffering, they were feeling persecuted. And they really wanted to experience some peace. They wanted some freedom. They wanted a better life. You know, they wanted a happier life, a more prosperous life. They wanted a Savior. And they wanted someone to help save them so they could have a better life. So the good news, you know, when it came that the Christ child was born, was very welcome news that brought great joy to them. And every year, we celebrate the anniversary of this great birth of Jesus, of the Christ child. It happened more than 2,000 years ago. You know, and we honor it, but sometimes I think we might forget that it is alive and as real as it was back then. And so I want to look at 3 lines in the 2 scriptures I just shared and how to apply them so we can have a personal experience of the good news and the great joy of Christmas. And the first is, "For unto us is born a child, a Savior." Now, I got to tell you, for years, I wondered, why did God pick a baby to be the Savior? You know, they're all cute and everything, but Savior is really not what I'd associate a baby with. If I was God, I would have said Shazam and materialize some warrior in armor, you know, on a horse. And maybe that's a little too far. At least would have picked someone tough and strong, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Jason Momoa. Or I would have picked someone powerful and rich, like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. Or maybe somebody really wise and insightful, you know, like the Dalai Lama or Gandhi. You know, so why did God pick a baby as a Savior? You know, the birth of a child is an awe-inspiring and amazing experience. It is called the miracle of life. Babies are called bundles of joy. When a child is born, there's an infusion of love and the hope of a better world that is possible. When we see a child, you know, we are just filled with awe. You know, sometimes we just soften, we become gentler, we become kinder. I mean, when you hold on to a baby, it's so soft and cuddly. Nothing exists in the world except being present to that child and loving and caring and holding that child. And then I realized maybe it was a perfect thing for a baby to be the Savior. Because God didn't want to be confronting and fighting to create peace on earth and goodwill towards all. A baby opens our hearts and softens us to create more harmony, more love and connection. You think it's a coincidence when Jesus said, "To enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become as a child"? "For unto us a child is born." For unto you, each and every one of us, a child is born. It is the Christ. It is the Christ child. It is the light of God. It is the light of the world. You know, in the book of John, it says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness could never overcome the light." You see, that Christ light that was born through Jesus, through the Christ child, is a light that shines for each and every one of us. You know, with that birth of light was the light of hope, the light of peace, the light of love, the light of joy, and that light through which we are able to live life and to live it more abundantly. You know, the Christ child, the light of God, the power of God's Spirit, you know, is born in each of us. It is for us, and it is always available to us. The second line I want to focus on is a simple one. It's this day. "For unto us is born this day." Not someday, not one day, but this day. And it was talking about it equally as that day, but it's this day and every day that child, that Christ child, and that Spirit of God is available to each and every one of us. You know, in the book of Joshua, it says, choose this day who you will serve. In Psalms 118, it says, this is the day that the Lord has made. I think when you hear this day, that means a reminder that life is today, that this possibility of experiencing God and a better life and greater goodness and blessings is available 24/7. 365. It's always available to us. We don't have to wait till Christmas or some time in the distant future. It is here and now. And no matter what's going on in our life, no matter what struggles we're facing, no matter what loss, no matter what hurt, we can turn to this light today, this day, and every day, anytime, because that Christ child is born for us and is available for us always. And then the last one is in the city of Bethlehem. Theologian Marcus Bach, in his book, Because of Christmas, says, somewhere in life, every thinking person comes upon his or her Bethlehem, the place of spiritual awareness, the place of spiritual rebirth. You know, we celebrate Christmas with all kinds of stuff, trees and gifts and lights and decorations and carols and cards and eggnog and Santa. I mean, we can go on with the list. There's a lot of stuff, and it's always busy and full. You know, we have so much Christmas stuff that I know some people are having Christmas parties in January because they didn't have room to fit it all. We cram a lot of celebrating. You know, and I think what he was saying is at some point, all that stuff, and it's not bad, but sometimes we can get distracted so much that we don't feel that spirit of Christmas. We don't feel connected to that, you know, spiritual awareness within ourselves. That sometimes we will be yearning for, wondering, is there any more to this? We want a deeper yearning of our soul to be reawakened, to be reborn. I had a friend some years back who was a very successful man, had a good family, had a lot of good. And he said, Richard, I just feel like I've lost my way. You know, I feel like that it's empty, that my life isn't as fulfilling, even though I have all this good stuff. And I think his soul was yearning for more. He was yearning to go deeper. He was yearning for his Bethlehem, to have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual renewal, a spiritual rebirth. Last Friday, I went to see A Christmas Carol at TheaterWorks in Peoria. If you haven't seen it, it's smoking good. It's really fabulous. Even though it's an old story, it is amazing how uplifting it is. And so this transformation of Scrooge from this cheap miser, you know, to this joyful, grateful, and generous guy, the cool thing is it happened in his apartment. The ghost came, and he was changed and transformed right there. He didn't travel any distant place. He was right there in his own Bethlehem, in his own place that his soul was yearning to be healed of his past pain and open up to live more joyously and more generously. And the fact is, we're never going to experience the full joy of Christmas till we find it in ourselves, till we find our own Bethlehem and have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual renewal, and a spiritual rebirth. There was an Episcopal bishop named Phillips Brooks. And in the mid-1800s, he went to Bethlehem, and he had a spiritual awakening. And out of that experience, he wrote these words, O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. He had an awakening right there in Bethlehem, but it was really in himself. So when we hear the words, for unto us is born a child, a Savior, this day in the city of Bethlehem, it means that the Christ is born unto you. Unto you, the Spirit and the power of God is in you, and it's available this day and every day But you must find it in that secret place in your own personal Bethlehem where you have a spiritual awakening so that Christ can be born and reborn in you every year. This Christmas, I invite us all to take time to personally experience the good news and great joy that is available to all of us. God bless you all.